This is a short presentation describing, I guess, the SESMIM KnowledgeBase and some of the tools and approach and Q&A that we need to understand as we move forward on this project if we are to embark on the creation of a knowledge base. There are 4 modules in the knowledge base portal. This would include, the first module is what the e-learning module, which contains the different areas that SESMIM is supporting, including cadastre, EIA, closure, etc. The second module is what I call the documents module. This is where electronic documents, reports, articles that is relevant to the project is placed for access via the portal or website. The third is videos, both technical and informational videos that users can access and play back online. And then the fourth is basically a set of links to relevant sites that may contain documents, data, and URLs. So, dealing with the actors of the knowledge base system, these are the people related, we need to define or determine the ownership. The ownership of the knowledge base system for the SESMIM Merit project would be who would be in charge of developing, maintaining, and operating the portal or the website. The second is the contributors to the e-learning. So these would be what you call the subject matter experts, say for EIA closure, Heidi and Whit, cadastre, myself, licensing could be Glenn, and the sovereign wealth fund, Philip, for example. And then in addition, then we need to define roles and functions for the assessment staff in Mongolia and the Mongolian consultants. And of course, this would be determining how do we localize the information. So the training progression to e-learning. I guess based on my experience, traditionally the consultant, or what you call the subject matter expert, in this case, would provide the training and generally provide a PowerPoint. The PowerPoint is, at least I would consider the minimum. Its usefulness is enhanced when the consultant actually supplies PowerPoint with a script of what he or she discussed as part of the PowerPoint. And then, of course, as we progress, the better information or e-learning data would be if you provided with a PowerPoint, the script, and an audio of the presentation where you could actually hear the consultant making the presentation with the PowerPoint. And then, of course, the same thing with the PowerPoint, the script, and the integrated actually audio-visual. So you get an MP4 that actually presents that. And finally, above, if you add on question and answers for the participants, it becomes part of the Moodle e-learning type environment. And in general, what we're trying to get to is, somewhere between the base, very base, where the expert trainer provides a PowerPoint, to the point where we actually have a Moodle type module. However, I think somewhere, anywhere in between, the second last would be great if we can achieve that in this project. So this slide shows the skills needed for e-learning development. So there are at least 2 main characters that is required. First is an instructional designer. This is the person that draws up the specifications. And that person may or may not be a subject matter expert. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're not. Okay, but the instructional designer has to at least research and gain enough knowledge of the subject that they are familiar with the domain-related jargon and have a good understanding of what the stakeholders or trainees would be questioning in terms of the material, so problems and issues that might arise from the subject matter expert. Now, the subject matter expert would be, for example, Heidi as it relates to EIA or closure, all right, or WIT with closure and so on, and assessment, or myself in cadastre. So the subject matter expert actually has to be able to communicate their knowledge and basically define the subject matters that need to be covered, and basically, on-the-job type training, training of the trainers and so on. And they need to define the resources. Now, there are two more people here that's actually important that I didn't put on the slide. One of them is a graphics designer. So in order to make this material more interesting to the user, you need someone that is really good with graphics if you want to really enhance the experience. And then also, you need an IT person to help with actually how to integrate some of the audio-visual information and so on to enhance the actual experience and put it up into the Moodle application or the website. All right, so those people are not mentioned here, but they are actually critical to the success. So in terms of the development process, so for each activity or expert area like cadastre or GIS or drones, the development process includes a training needs assessment. Okay, so where you evaluate what exactly do you need to prepare for the trainee or the stakeholder and what kind of information they need. We then need to do a task analysis. Okay, what are the tasks involved? Step by step to actually get to the point where the trainee will have the knowledge they need to implement whatever they're implementing specifically. And then we need to lay out an instructional design. How are we going to design this? Okay, is it going to be some hands-on and then some online information, or is there hardware related, or is there homework related, and so on? And then the graphic page and layout design. So the graphics is kind of important because if you have really boring kind of slides and people kind of fall asleep, like myself would do. And then you have to go into the production of the training materials, be it hard copy, be it CDs, okay, that you hand out. And then at the end of the day, we need to develop cost evaluation, parts of the results-based kind of management approach. How well did they understand? What kind of comments and what improvements could be done if necessary, and then you iterate. All right. This slide outlines the Addie Model. This is the model, the acronym for the steps taken in most cases for the development of e-learning modules. So the Addie stands for analysis, design, develop, implement, evaluate. Unfortunately, evaluate fell out of my slide here, so trust me, it's there. So the first step, analysis, is need to determine who, what, where, when, why, and by whom are going to be involved in the design process. The design itself is creating the blueprint or structure for the training. And then develop is applying the above to create the training product. Implement is actually deliver the training, and after you deliver the training, you need to evaluate the results, at which time you can determine if you need to make changes and modifications to improve the experience for the trainees. Software tools. Up to this point, we have had no need to actually, you could do it all on paper with your storyboarding and so on. Those are different kinds of tools that you can use to actually design your training. However, once you've designed it, then okay, what can we use to actually make the e-learning application or tool or product, all right? So some of the products available, basically these are commercial off-the-shelf software by Atomy, which is Active Presenter. We're actually using Active Presenter to create this learning module. And you can, with Active Presenter, you have a free version which does a lot of the work that we need. But if you wanted to do even more enhanced e-learning Moodle type work, then you would need to pay for the license copy and add the additional features. The other one that is used by a lot of educational institutions is Aptitude. So Aptitude is actually a relatively expensive product, so we never looked at it because I have no budget to buy it and I don't normally use it. Camtasia is another product. It's in the $300-400 range. I've used it before and I had a license to create videos, basically product videos. It is a good application, all right? And then there's an open source one called Cam Studio, which allows you to do what we call screencasting, all right? So essentially, these are some of them, and there is probably a lot more available. But we are actually going to be focused on Active Presenter because that is the product that will work for free, and we can download and use the free ones, okay? So Active Presenter is the recommended product for us to use for now. So now we're talking about e-learning portals or websites. Now effectively, if we go through all the process and we develop all the electronic training material, well, where do we put it? So one of the things you could use is Moodle. And if SESMIM has its own server with the respective IP address, we could actually hook up the e-learning portal on the server that is in the SESMIM office in UB. Alternatively, there are other, third-party like elearning.net, which are portals. They're like website hosting services that you could pay them a fee and they will host your Moodle. Similarly with Litmus, they actually may have their own modified version of Moodle, and we would then move our learning material there. And then finally, one of the interesting products is Google's Classroom. So Google has a lot of options that we could actually look at, as potential that is free. All right. Finally, the end. Bye Allah, and thank you.